the first crisis point, the big one. Like these were like small stages which are very important. They can be very hard and very tough, but usually there are two out of all of these, the 30s and the 60s, which are like peaking points. And what follows is the first Saturn return, and that's between 28 and 30 or 31. So it's a period of time, it's not a fixed age, but something really changes here, and it's very difficult to explain what. Maybe I wouldn't even do this talk today. I don't feel qualified to talk about any ages from here onwards. What I tell you from here onwards is what I've read in books, and only maybe you would tell me more about what it is than I know. But this is something that took me hard, and like everybody else around me that's in this age, differently in different areas of life, but it really feels, it is felt. I turned 30 about 8 months ago. I'll be 31 in October, and it's like almost towards the end of that cycle. And I really, before that, I had read about it. I knew I needed to expect it. I only started learning astrology when I was 26, 27, but I knew a little bit about this before it happened to me, and I knew that it probably will be hard. And I thought, oh, I'm pre-warned. Nothing's gonna shake me. What could happen? You know, if I'm open, if I'm open for change, if I'm positive, it's gonna pass. And yeah, it actually is not that bad. I don't want to make it sound like a tragedy or something like that. It's a necessary, very necessary stage. Kim, don't worry. It's gonna go fine. But it just we're always tested in that period because something in us kind of switches. We get attuned to Saturn, that disciplinary, I don't know, father figure. It's imaginary, but it happens. It's as if somebody says, "Hold on, you have to account for time. You can't. You have to make choices now." End of childhood, beginning of maturity. That's what this is all about. A new stage of life needs to begin, and we need to choose out of all the options that we have already explored. Maybe you've done so many things in the 20s, and lots of them are interesting and lots of them are options, and you always wanted to keep those options open. But then at 30, something happens, kind of saying to us, we need to now narrow down from 10 options to 2. We still have, Saturn still gives us a couple. We don't have to like feel like prisoners of Saturn, and that from that point you have to make a very definite step. But still you have to limit, and you have to limit yourself, because if you don't limit yourself, something else limits you. Something happens that makes you feel that really bad, in the form of some uh, crisis happening, event, whatever it may be. So it's a very good period because it can give a total new meaning to the next years and to the next cycle, which is the 30-year cycle, the most productive years of all. And you know, probably everybody knows how we make those plans in the 20s. If I don't do this by 30, I'm never gonna do it. We are like, I've also done this, probably all of you have done this, but luckily none of us manages to do all of those things by 30, and that's actually not the point, because the point of doing is after 30, not before. Before 30 is the point of exploring, of testing, of, you know, trying out things. But when it comes to doing, like achieving in a certain profession or in a certain course of action, the time is at 30 to choose what that is based on your previous experience and what previous things have showed, and then act on it. This is the, in other words, the point where our cycle of potential productivity begins. How much we can do and what we can do, what we can give out to the world, contribute, will be tested during the whole 30-year period between 30 and 60. And between 28 and 35 is such a big struggle, because we become very acutely aware, and that's a feeling, and it comes, want it or not, aware that something is ending, and that something in this point is childhood. We really get this awareness that we were children up until that age, and from now on something else is expected from us, but we're not very sure what that is. And that's where most of that confusion comes from, because It's hardest when people have um, taken very serious engagements and commitments in their 20s. If you have married or had children in your 20s, or chosen a career path which is very strict and you have to follow it, and you've already done many years in it in the 20s, it won't be very easy to just throw that away and to stop it and start a new thing. But you would feel a pressure. When you get 30, you would start being dissatisfied with your life the way it was so far. You would start reviewing all the 20s and asking yourself questions. Did I do what I had to do? Was it worth it getting into this relationship? Was it worth it having my children? Even if you love your children, as anybody will, you would start asking yourself those questions if you went into too much commitment. Do I want to stay in that job? All of those questions will, which one will be the most acute question depends on which part of the chart Saturn is. Yeah, maybe you would have had children and you would have married, but then Saturn is in your house of career, and what you actually make as a change at 30 is not your family situation but your career situation. So it doesn't need to be a tragedy or a abandonment of what you've had so far, but you would feel that urge to go somewhere else and do something else. um, at the end of the day, that period just asks us to stop and think, and that's it. Stop and think, and then re-strategize, and then go on. Choosing, I mean, the more you know about yourself, the more you can choose what to do after 30. Like, I knew I wanted to do this, that I have to make it work somehow. And 30 was like a point of no return. So you either do it or not do it. Of course, I don't have to do it exactly at 30, but at 30, a decision needs to be made for the course of action. But what you have guaranteed is that there will be some suffering there, there will be some confusion there will be some depression. Actually, Saturn return equals depression. And this depression is not very real. After it passes, after that period passes, it tends to feel like it was stupid. It wasn't so serious. But at the moment when it happens, and that's what I want to say to everybody that's just about to go through this, is that it always feels more serious and more painful than it actually is. And the moment it goes, it's actually, oh, why the hell did I need to to think all these thoughts and to, because Saturn needs to make it hard so that it pushes you to act. If it doesn't push you to act, you may just remain in the same thing that you were doing and never use your potential, never actually realize something better than you did up to that point. The end result is meant to be positive, and it's always positive.